here to discuss all things NRL and anything sports related. Please give a warm Aussie g'day to the footy fanatic and America's own Corey Jackson in Outside the Sheds.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to Outside the Sheds. Shedheads, I've got to admit to you right off the bat, I hope you're having one like I am, and that is an incredible week. Because besides some incredible footy that we had round 12 last weekend, before I got into round 12, I had a flashback moment. And that flashback moment, as we all go, and I'm not going to do the time warp thing from, what are those guys? What is it? Time warp thing. Anyway, time warp. We're not time warping. That's what we're not doing. But I'm going to say I did go back into a little bit of a time warp because I got to start my weekend as everything was kicking off, reliving Vegas. Now you ask me, Shedadamus, how are you reliving Vegas? Well, I got to relive Vegas because we met an incredible couple, me and Mrs. Shedadamus. We met Special K and Russell the Lionheart. Now, these are all code names, so you guys can always guess, because I don't say anybody's name on this show, because not everybody wants the limelight that your Shedadamus has. Heck, most of you haven't even seen what I look like. I'm kind of undercover. I'm kind of like a spy, if you know what I mean. I'm a rugby league spy. Don't ask Vossi, because I told him I was a degenerate, but that's something else. But this incredible couple that we met, we got to break some bread here in my hometown. And Russell Lionheart, I only have to say, La Playa awaits, because we got to have some good cocktails. It was an incredible night, and that's what kind of kicked off everything. And there is a possible rumor that your Shedadamus may be in the Brisbane area for Magic Round next year. So we'll have to see. There's a lot of things in works, but I want to give a shout out because they're a special couple, and I'm really happy that we got to spend some time with them. And that's how I started it all off. Whoa, wait a second. Before we go any farther, I've heard some rumblings out of Sydney that your Shedadamus, yours truly, has been called into question by some of the Chooks greats. Dennis, I'm not calling you out, but I'm going to say this right now. The Chooks have a free pass in this jungle, in this space. And outside the Sheds, we would be called a rooster-friendly zone. We don't talk bad about the Chookies, and I heard that you might have thought some people on maybe the eastern suburb side might think that I've been talking bad about the Chooks. And this is not the case. I stand strong on my wall that the Sydney Roosters have not been talked bad about on Outside the Sheds. And the only time I'm ever going to talk bad about anybody, and you will all know this, is if you earn it. I will call anybody to the mat if you did. So, before we go any farther, I just want to get that in check right now. Dennis, boys, I'm not against you. Matter of fact, I have quite a bit in my large arsenal of jerseys, a few Roosters jerseys. So, letting you know, you guys are all, for one, you're Shedheads, which means you're family to me, but not talking bad about your club. Big fan of that club. Plus, I'm not going to get on the bad side of Uncle Nick. Not even close. So, Special K, Russell, hope you had an incredible trip back to Bris Vegas. And like I said, looking forward to talking to you guys soon. Now, let's get down to business. You know, I went off the turnpike there for a second. I got to attack again. And we got to attack by we went 3 for 5. We had that short week, only 5 matches. So some of us kind of got off it. You know, it was like, drinking too much caffeine, or if you guys are into heaters, cutting back from that 2 packs a day to 1. Not me, but anyway, it just kind of let us decompress a little bit. Only 5 matches. Heck, Mrs. Shedadamus didn't know what to do with me. That's how much free time I had. But 3 for 5, not bad. We're still at a 70% pick clip. But the round started off with one of my first misses, and that was Dolphins 30, Raiders 22, missing some key players. More players were in the origin realm from the Dolphins than any other club. And they still go out, take care of the Raiders, stick it to Stickies, boys. A great match, which I knew it was going to be. But are we really now going to start thinking, all right, are the Dolphins a smoky? Because with that victory now, they are in the top 8. Some people think they have the potential to be top 4. And the great Billy Slater says he thinks that they can win the whole competition. And I'm going to say something right now. Billy Slater was one of my most despised players when he played. The guy just got to me, right? Now I look back and I really enjoy watching Billy Slater play, 1. But 2, of all the pundits that are out there, that when he says something, I sit back and I really take it to heart and I listen, it's Billy Slater. I just think the guy is a genius. I think that he just gets the game. I love the approach, the way that he breaks things down. And I will say, if any coach that I could play for, probably Billy's in the top 3, if not very higher than that. So when Billy says something, I really, really listen. And when he said that, it really made me sit back and kind of look at the Finns a little bit more. And I think they do. I think they have a strong possibility of finishing top 4. I don't think they can win the competition. I think the Waz and the Panthers are too strong of clubs to come over the top of them. But let's be honest. That is a healthy Waz, and that's a healthy Panthers. But let's say Nathan Cleary, knock on wood, goes out. Or, the Waz are showing right now they might be the deepest team of the competition. But maybe right after them is the Dolphins. So who knows? Like I said, we've got a lot. This is only round 12 we're talking about right now. We got round 13 right around the corner here in just a matter of hours. So if they're as deep as the Waz, like some people think, maybe they are. Maybe they are more of a smoky than we think. But big victory. Willow, my people down in the nation's capital, I'm not losing faith. But man, they've got to get this together soon. The Green Machine have to put this thing in 5th gear soon if they're going to get back into this running. So, big victory for the Dolphins, especially missing so many people. Bulls 30, Storm 20. The trials and tribulations of the 2026 Melbourne Storm continue. Big halftime lead, and they just can't consolidate. They just can't close it down. They just can't finish. And when was the last time we have ever said this? And I'm going to say this. This is my 16 years of just being delved into this game. When can I say in these last 16 years that the Melbourne Storm don't finish? That when they have their foot on your neck, that they let up and you still have a chance of going forward. It doesn't happen. And we're seeing something, to me, 18-6, halftime lead, and you don't finish? Just strange. Especially for a Bulldogs club whose back was against the wall. I'm not going to go too deep into this because just a hint. We might be going a little bit deeper dive on the boys from the kennel. But, again, just not able to close. And then, you have some impressive performances from some guys that just take them off the mat. So, going to talk about this a little bit more, but big victory for the Bulldogs. Big victory. And like I said, we know the fan support in Belmore. So I know a lot of people are happy. I still hear some drums beating. But big victory for the Bulldogs. Warriors 30, Dragons 12, Con Pereira, Tamari Martin, DWZ, everybody, those 3 guys getting doubles. I have to think, I was kind of going back into the archives. And I was trying to think when I watched a game when 3 players had a double apiece. And it just went blank slate. If you guys can regurgitate that without getting into the Zapruder tapes, you're crazy. Because I don't believe you for a second. This Waz team is special. Man, they are special. And that's why I'm happy they got through. Because I wanted this blockbuster that we got closing out round 13, Panthers Waz. It is set up now, and the fingers are crossed because we know guys drop out closer to the weekend. I want a full charging Penrith side. I want Cleary in there. I want Isaiah Yo in there. I want Bizza in there. I want this club strapped and packed and ready to fight because this match is going to be something special. Unfortunately for us over here in the Divided States, it's like it's 6 a.m., but it is going to be something good, and I cannot wait to see it. But the Waz continue to do special things and continue to march down and take care of business and just keep going. And I remember years ago, if the Waz went on a long road trip, they just kind of fell off, when they stayed out of the Rumble Isles for a couple weeks on hand, not counting the COVID years. But they're just different. They're built different. Their mental strength is different. They're just a good team, and they continue to progress. And I cannot wait until Sunday. Sea Eagles 12, Titans 10. Manly getting another victory. But this time they get another victory behind Fosball, down and dirty. Because nothing came easy in this game. They had to find a way to get back up. And I know, hey, listen, Matty, Gordy, not trying to call anybody out here. The Gold Coast Titans at this current time are not must-see television. Meaning I don't think teams are getting jazzed to play the Gold Coast Titans. And when you see them on the schedule, how they're going right now, yeah, you might know that you're going to be in for a little bit of a fight. But I don't think that you're going, I'm going to have to take another bump of Monster Energy to keep me going and keep me motivated to go in there. I don't think they hear the alarm bells go as they come running out of the sheds. It's just a different feel than playing a Penrith or a Waz or, a Brisbane. You've got to get yourself up. And this is why a lot of people thought this could be a trap game. And right now, a lot of times when you play the Titans, it's a trap game because it's just not that game on paper that makes you get jazzed and ready to go. But the Sea Eagles find a way. And this is those type of games where it shows me the depth and mental strength of a ball club when they can get up, somehow self-motivate, knowing, this team is here to play, and they get it together and do it. The Titans brought it, man. You really have to feel for Josh Hannay's boys because they are finding an inner strength to kind of get themselves up and continue to look and circle for that victory. It's just that nothing pans out for them right now. Everything that kind of broke their way during the preseason has just not broke their way at all during this regular season. And I still can't really put my finger on if they're going to be that team that catches fire late in the season and just kind of causes some people problems and might cause people places on the ladder. And I just don't know. We've had a couple teams these last few years that have kind of done that and kind of ruined some team seasons by just, like I said, coming alive late. But to me, it was all about the Sea Eagles, the way that they found a way to get this victory. And again, I don't know if he's looking for a special pen. I don't know if he's looking for just the right haircut. We saw Kieran Foran was in all black. Foz was looking like he was the dark side of the Force in the box. So I don't know. Maybe he's looking for a different style or whatever for the picture. But the man has got to sign a contract soon, wouldn't you think? He's got to. He has changed the whole way the competition looks at Manly right now. Listen, I will say this too. There is not a team that has been smiling like Jack Nicholson playing the Joker more than the boys at the Manly Warriga Singles right now. Because they've got that crazy smile, like the Joker just drops gas all over the northern beaches. These guys are happy. They're playing a fun brand of footy, and they're continuing to get stronger and believing. Let's say that again, believing in what they bring to the table. So it's a beautiful time to be a Sea Eagles fan. I know, we hate you too, Manly, but good times, and it's good to see, man. The competition is better when Manly is better. So they're a real force. So big victory there. And finally, Cowboys 30, Rabbitohs 18. The Cows making it 8 of their last 10 in the W department, and that would be wins, Shedheads. They just continue to find ways, and to me, let's stop for a second. we got to start asking our question, what does Toddy Payton got to do to sign him a contract extension to stay on as the coach and the main sheriff for the Cows? The Dutton Ranch called and said that he's done a good job, and maybe you should be leading those Wrangler boys for a little bit longer. But I will say this, they're a fun club to watch. And I think that defensive performance they had against the Chooks a couple weeks back has made them know that they can play defense when they need to. And like I said, I think that they're a team that's going to be there. I think they're a team that's going to be in the 8. And I'm happy about that because I do like Todd Payton a lot. And his demeanor has even changed on the sideline. And the reason he's so happy is because things are just falling in line up in Townsville. And I think that it's only going to get better. And that's why I think it would be really silly for them to kind of change everything, because I think Todd Payton has got this team going with the youth. The only thing I still don't get, and I know everyone says Purdue is going to be maybe that guy in the fullback position. I don't know why you get rid of Scotty Drinkwater. That's one that still has me a tad bit baffled. But Drinkwater's not gone yet, and right now the Cows are looking like a team that is ready to really push into the finals. Now, Shedheads, I know it's hard for all of us to concentrate when you got Oregon knocking outside your window and knowing it's about ready time to come through there. And you know what I'm talking about. It's kind of like, I don't know if any of you have seen that movie Say Anything, where Cusack is standing on the yard, got his boombox over his head, and the young lady's sitting on the upstairs just wanting to go out there and pining, like, whatever, right? Welcome to 80s movies. But it's kind of like that. Origin is like that annoying kid outside, okay, but that you like him, that's playing a beatbox above his head, meaning you can hear him and you can't get that song out of your head, right? That's what Origin is, and that's what it was this week. Yes, we enjoyed our 5 games, but the only thing people were talking about and thinking about was State of Origin. That was it. That was it, right? So we had to kind of stay focused, and we wanted to do a little bit deeper dive. We had to kind of try to push away the cobwebs so we could get focused. And what I kind of came to is the Bulldogs are not dead yet. And I know that that's hard to say because some of you think that they are right now pushing up daisies, but they're not dead yet. And it did look, after the first half against the Storm, it looked like, it looked like Old Yeller, if you know what I mean. And we're not going to talk that deep about Old Yeller because we've got maybe some young listeners. And there's not a movie that probably caused more PTSD on child development than Old Yeller. But that dog might not be barking much longer, right? That's what we're talking about here. And then things kind of changed. After our first half that we were throwing dirt on the kennel, a second half started. And this second half was totally different. It was an agitated dog. It was a rabid dog. It was a dog that had a little bit of bite. And I'm kind of sitting there going, well, where the heck was this the first half? I'm saying it was a pretty big lead. It was 18-6. And the way they've been playing recently, the Bulldogs, no one, and especially myself, were really expecting them to come out of the sheds the way that they did. But the change of fortune to me was Matty Burton. And when I started to think about Matt Burton, this is a guy that a couple years ago was one of the best running 5/8 in the competition. He's a big dude. He's a big guy. So he's not afraid to run. He runs well. But he's kind of been back burner material since Galvin came in. Since the whole Lachlan Galvin experiment, right? People have talked, is he in the wrong position? So they want to move him in positions. They talk, is he going to the Perth Bears? Everybody's kind of fallen out of love with Matt Burton. And to me, it's kind of a sad story because this is a guy to me that has a lot of game. I remember when he signed the contract to come to Belmore to be a Bulldog, that was a big acquisition. And it's like he's just not the shiny new car that people want. These are the people that, that have a lease And Matt Burton has, come up to his 2-year lease expiration date, and they're already thinking about what that new shiny car is. And some people, that was Lachlan Galvin, because you hear people saying time and time again, Galvin's not a 7, he's a 6. So, well, we got to get Matt Burton out of there because we got the new shiny car, the kid with the Dumb and Dumber haircut. We got to bring him in. He's the new 6. And they just kind of pushed Matt Burton out. Well, Shedheads, I will say this right now. The Bulldogs better be very, very happy they hadn't pushed Matt Burton out yet, because he was the catalyst that came back. Because that second half changed everything. He ran for 252 running meters for the game, 7 tackle breaks. He just was everything. He kind of reminded me of, what was it? I can't remember the round, but last year when the Dogs looked like they were out of contention against the Raiders down the nation's capital, and Stephen Crichton literally put the team on his back and led that incredible comeback. That's what kind of things that Matt Burton did in this game. He just looked like anytime he had a chance to take on the line and run, he did. And that's what you need. You need that. And the Dogs need that if they're going to go forward and really try to get back into this thing. It was impressive, and it made me happy because I think it was almost like Matt Burton wanted to get out a lot of frustration that people had forgot about what type of player he can be. This guy has played Origin before, all right? So since we got Cusack out in the front yard with his boom box, let's not say blue or maroon, but it was it was a beatbox, all right? Not Jerome Blue Eyes, but it was a beatbox. So it was just that. You got an Origin guy that's showing, I got something going here. But then you had 2 other guys to me that really showed out. That was Bronson Sherry and Jacob Carraz. I want to go with Bronson Sherry first. Because is it hard, after watching the performance that Bronson Sherry did against the Storm, isn't it crazy to think just a few weeks ago, this guy was on the outs again as the Bulldogs, just can never stay settled? Let's send him down. Let's leave him out of the competition altogether. And I'll say this, since he has returned, he's been the best player at this club, Bronson Sherry has been. He really has been. 10 tackle breaks against the Storm. And they looked like they had no idea what to do with this guy. He was just a blur of tattoo that was going down the side. No one could wrangle the dude. They could not get him down. And that is what I'm talking about. When I listened to an interview with him, and he's like, he's one of those guys that, he's been through a lot. And he even said in the interview, this moment of him being stood down for a little bit is not anywhere close to the darkest moments he's had. Don't forget, he got kicked out of the game for that Asada situation with possible performance-enhancing drugs. So he thought that the game that he loved might be gone forever from him. There was no guarantee until he got the lifeline. So he's been in worse positions and worse times in his life. But it's almost like he's got a second wind, and he's not going to let that ever affect him again, because he looked incredible. And then there was Jacob Carraz. Jacob Carraz might want to forget about that first half because it was subpar, but he sure woke up in the second half like the rest of the boys, because he was filling in for Connor Tracy. And I feel for Connor Tracy because it seems like a few weeks ago, he had a gigantic smile on his face. He signed a contract extension. He found a place where, finally it looked like, that he was accepted with the Bulldogs and they weren't trying to kick him out of town. And now he's probably been kicked out of town just weeks after he signed his contract extension, because I don't see Jacob Carraz going anywhere. And so much so that he's already been named in the side to take on the Tigers this weekend in the number 1 position. 297 running meters and a try is not a bad performance, especially for as bad of a first half as Jacob Carraz had. You got to think, all right, maybe he brings he's a bigger guy, he brings a little bit more strike. The question is how healthy that ankle is, and can he really put that much time in week in, week out with the running that it's going to take? Because I don't think a lot of people understand how much running that fullback position really kind of demands out of the guy that's going to put that one on his back. You just can't all of a sudden say, I'm going to go play fullback. You've got to have those miles on your legs and be able to put in that time. But it's going to be interesting for me that he's going to be back in that fullback position, and they go up against a team that is as desperate as they are, and that's the West Tigers. So yeah, that's right, Shedheads. We've got another Lachlan Galvin Bowl between the Tigers and the Bulldogs. And then it just comes back with a question. Yes, these guys look great. Burton looked great. What is he going to have with him, in his legs coming back from Origin? I know he didn't play, but I think he played 20 minutes, maybe a little bit less, in that Origin side for the game that happened on Tuesday night. But what Bulldogs team are we going to see? They're going to be playing a team that's as desperate. It's going to be the second week in a row they're playing a team that's as desperate as they are. So you just wonder, because the Tigers are going to be ready to play. Curaçao's back, and I think Bola's back, right? Yeah, Bola's back. So you're talking about a Tigers team that's finally going to feel like they've got guns, bullets back in their gun. So it's going to be interesting to see, are the Bulldogs for real? Is this rejuvenation a real thing? Or did they run into a Storm team that were missing two key pieces and just didn't enable them to close? And that's why we have to watch the game, Shedheads, because I can't answer for it, but I'm not answering it now. That's when we do the picks here in a few moments. Now, State of Origin Game 1. Blues 22, Maroons 20. Oh, can I just say it out loud? Okay, for all the hip kids, OMG. OMG with about 5 exclamation points. That's what we had from State of Origin 1. And hey, let's keep it with Rusty. Let's keep it with the man himself. Only one saying that we need to say after that game. Were you not entertained? Now, I know I didn't sound anything like Maximus, but really, if you were not entertained by Origin Game 1, maybe I should hand you some clubs and you should play golf, because you just do not like excitement in your life whatsoever. That was an incredible game of footy. It had everything that you wanted. It had big hits. It had speed. It had striking technical offense. It had guys just playing off the cuff. It had everything that you wanted. It had debutantes. It had skilled guys that were coming back into their jersey. It had storylines for days. It was an Origin 1 like I can't remember an Origin 1. And I think one of the parts about it that was so cool about this Origin was that when none of us had any idea what to really expect going into it. It was, all right, what do we got here? Because both sides, the Maroons and the Blues, felt pretty good about the teams they had on the field. That was until Mitchell Moses came down with his calf strain, doing some extra kicks after practice. Went for scans, comes back, he's not playing, and we get Ethan Strange. And isn't it crazy? Papa Strange wins Origin for the ladies, for the Blues, and now Ethan gets the baton handed to him from his father to pick up and to put on his inaugural jersey to play for the Blues. And I will remember something Big Daddy himself, Sticky, Ricky Stewart, said for the last year. Ethan Strange is ready for this moment. He's got that personality. He's got that type of a game. He's got that it to play on the biggest stage in rugby league, and that is State of Origin. So, hey, listen, for a guy that's just sitting on the fence with a bag of popcorn, watching it, it was everything that I needed right there. I wanted to see Strangey play. I wanted to see how he fits in with Nathan Cleary. And that was just a precursor going into it. Now, let's start talking about this game. Enough of this precursor. Let's talk about it. What I did not expect was for the Blues to come out of the sheds in front of 79,186 at Acor, lethargic and slow. Some people have said this is the third game in a row under Laurie that these guys have started that way. I can't really confirm that, but the people that said it, I don't think just talk to hear themselves talk. So you have to think that that's the case. It was very, very strange to me that they started that way, and because of that type of start, you kind of blinked your eyes, and the Maroons had scored 3 tries in the first 16 minutes. I've watched enough State of Origin. I think my first Origin jersey, and I will not tell you what color the jersey was, my first Origin jersey was from the 2012 Origin series. That's my first jersey that I got for State of Origin. So I've been watching this for a while, right? And I cannot remember an Origin game where one team had an 18-point lead 16 minutes into the game and just looked like uh-oh for the other side. Because the Blues were playing horrendous. And just everything they did it turned to garbage. I'm saying, when was the last time that we saw Brian Ta'o or Steven Critter and Bizza? When was the last time those guys have done 7 errors in a game? I don't remember those 2 guys doing 7 errors in 7 games, let alone 7 in a game. So it just, something's up. Something's wrong with the Blues. To come out in front of your faithful like that and to just kind of lose the plot. I don't know what that's about. I really don't. And then you even watch Lori Daly in the box, and I think Laza probably lost about 2 years off the longevity of his life because they just couldn't get it going at all. It just was, like I said, it was just strange. And listen, you tell me. Some of you have watched State of Origin way longer than I have. Like I said, I've been just watching it since 2011. So this thing's been going on for a long time. King Wally and all these guys. But I cannot remember a team just looking and just handing the ball over like that. Now, as bad as the Blues were, Billy had the Maroons looking surgical and sharp right out of the gate. And I'll say this right now about Billy the Kid. When they went up 18-0, he had to feel pretty darn good because they looked great. Debutante Sammy Hollywood Walker looked like he's been playing Origin for a while. That boot was perfect. His short game was right on. His short kicking game was right on. He had some of the larrikin qualities. You know, you had Munster on side, but he's playing the line how he does. He was managing the team. It was maybe, a lot of people think, one of the best first Origin performances for a player in that type of position, maybe in the history of the game. Okay, that's a lot to say, but he did not look out of place. And I kind of was wondering, he's not a big guy. He's kind of a slight dude. Sammy Walker is. But he never had a problem. And he's never shied away from a tackle. He's never shied away from, stepping into the line. So that was cool. Then you had Tommy Flegler, a guy that's been out forever, and him getting a try within those first 16 minutes. Like I said, if you were rooting for the Toads, this was a Hollywood fantasy story that was just going into silicone, meaning it was being put on film. That they were thinking what Hollywood actors were going to be playing these players when they did the movie. It was fairy tale stuff. It was a start that you couldn't have asked. Listen, Billy Slater, the last thing he thought was that they were going to be up 18-0 with 16 minutes into the 16 minutes into the game. He had to be as punch drunk as Lori was in the other box, going, "Is this really happening?" All right. Let's get to the gaslight moment of the game. And that is the Kalen Ponga tackle. I, for one, would have sent him 10 minutes to the bin. I would not have sent Kalen Ponga off for that shot. I really don't. It was a violent collision. Yes, it was. I've watched that tackle about 50 times. I've just gone back and watched it, try to look at all the different angles. What we don't have a good shot of is a down the side shot Because I'm going to say this right now. I do not think Kalen Ponga made contact with his shoulder to the head of Cola. I don't. I think his shoulder got driven hard into the collarbone area, which made Cola's head recoil and what gave off that snapping sensation that you saw. But as I looked, and I've even frozen it, and I haven't seen anybody freeze it, I froze it, that shoulder blade is in the collarbone area. Now, we've seen the game refereed where it's violence of action or what's the term they use? Dangerous contact or whatever. I don't call it that. It was violent contact, sure it was. There was another guy in the tackle, sure there was. But for it to be that type of a force to the head, right? I'm going to ask you a question right now. If it was the case, how is Kalen Ponga's ear bleeding the way it was as he was also wearing a helmet? It doesn't add up. That's why, to me, it was not shoulder direct to the head. It was shoulder to the collarbone. Heads hit each other. That's what we get. But that doesn't change the fact. I can speak till I'm blue in the face about what I feel, because everybody has an opinion on this. I know Blues fans are probably throwing stuff at their speakers, radios, or whatever, what I'm saying. And Maroons fans are standing up saying, I told you so. I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm sitting here saying, from my interpretation, from what I've watched, my feeling of what I saw. All right. So let's go forward. What really stinks to me is that this entire game, something we all dreaded, right, came down to this moment. Because at that time, it was 20-6. And if anybody felt that the Maroons were going to lose that game, 13-on-13, with Ponga playing the way that he was, you're crazy. You're crazy. So, it happened, right? Kalen Ponga's gone. I had another problem, too. My other problem was Ashley Klein talking to Adam G in the box, and G sending down that he thinks that it was head-to-head contact, but Ashley Klein standing firm, saying no, it was not that case at all. My problem with this is Adam G in the bunker. No matter if you want to say you hate the bunker a lot or you agree with the bunker has way more camera angles than Ashley Klein does running 1,000,000 miles an hour in the thick of battle or right there amongst the fire. That to me is like, all right, we want to have the bunker in the game. So if the bunker's in the game, the bunker's in the game. And for a call to be that big, and for Ashley to just say, nope, that's what I feel, when Adam G might have thinks he saw something different, I got a real problem with that. I've got a huge problem with that. And I don't think a lot of the pundits in the game want to say or talk bad about refereeing or say that, Ashley Klein got it wrong. It almost is like people didn't want to disagree with a dictator. I mean a guy that's leading a country because they're scared of maybe, something coming down the pike about not agreeing with what's going on at the NRL. I don't know. It just seemed really strange. And the way he answered it back was, no, that's not the case. That's not the case. Well, how are you saying that's not the case when you're not seeing tons of different camera angles? So I really had a problem with that. I had a big time problem with that. And the thing that I said last week coming in Origin, I just didn't want the bunker and I didn't want the officials to make a call that was going to change the outcome of the game. And this did. It totally changed the outcome of the game. And that's no matter if you're a Blues fan or a Maroons fan. You cannot sit back and say this call on Kalen Ponga and this hit did not change the entire outcome of the game. Because That's all the Blues needed. The moment that happened, this team down 20-6 at the time, it just, everything changed. You had the leg churning Ethan Strange coming alive. You had the tactical master Nathan Cleary kicking 40-20s. It just changed everything. You had the Maroons going from feeling like they were just going to dictate traffic and just slowly choke this guy out like a professional wrestler or an MMA fighter, to all of a sudden they're in a chase mode where they're just trying to defend their line and trying to run to any corner they can, and just trying to stay alive. It went from trying to tread water in the baby pool to treading water out in the Pacific Ocean during a bad storm. It was bad, right? If you're a Maroons fan, but it just changed the total dynamic. And Cleary, love him or hate him, I think he's the best halfback in the competition. He was not going to let that moment not allow him to get his team back into this and to get over the top. And that leads us again to another major moment. And that other major moment is the try that nailed it all down. Because they will be playing this James Tedesco take of a bomb from Nathan Cleary for years to come. All right? From the moment that Teddy juggles the ball, recontacts it, regrips it, and puts it down, they'll be playing it forever. And they will. But for me, I just was so happy for James Tedesco. You know my stance on this. That's right, Dennis. I'm getting ready to talk positive about the Chooks. Tedesco, for me, should have never lost that number 1 jersey. He didn't do anything to lose that jersey. It was somebody wanted to put their own stamp on origin selection, and Teddy was the odd man out. And this is nothing against Dylan Edwards, because I think that Mr. Clean is one of the best players at the position and probably the best defensive fullback in the game. But that doesn't mean that Teddy should have lost his place. And so when Teddy makes this reception, and you just see the utter joy and exhilaration that comes across his face, he looks up to the heavens, almost like he can't believe this just happened. I don't know if there's been another redemption story better than that I've seen. Because this is a guy that he's just been class this entire time. He's never talked bad. He's never said anything derogatory about New South Wales or the decision-making of standing him down. It just was never any of that. So to me, that was just awesome. It really was. It just stinks that it didn't happen 13-on-13, that it happened 13-on-12, right? But that still does not take away from me how great it felt seeing James Tedesco get back in the winner's column and to be able to pull that type of catch off to just seal the deal. It was the largest comeback for the Blues, which, history is something we love on this show. And it gave a little bit of reprieve to Lori Daly. Because if Laz does not get that comeback, heck, there's people I've heard saying that he shouldn't even coach the rest of Origin. And that's the drastic contrast that you get when you have guys in this type of top-tier position. It's either all candy and chocolates or it's all coal. Can't have it one way or the other. And it just felt to me that Laz was right up against it. And he stays alive. He gets that stay of execution. And even though the Blues did steal the match, I don't think they outplayed the Maroons. I think the Maroons had a better game. I think they had a better attack. I just think that when you look at the finished product, again, I go back with, if Ponga doesn't leave the field and it stays 13-on-13, I do not think the Blues make an incredible comeback and come over the top at the end to beat the Maroons. They're in trouble, though. And I'm not going to say this because, I think there's going to be people that are saying that I'm coming down on the Blues. They do not win this series, though, New South Wales, if they don't do some drastic changes. They've got to come out like a house on fire in Game 2 and in Game 3. If they do not lift their level of energy and lift the level of focus, they cannot do the amount of errors that they did in that game and think that they're going to win. All right? That's one. Couple of major changes, too, that I would not make or make. I leave Ethan Strange in 6. I do not bring Mitchell Moses back, even if Mitchell Moses is healthy. I think what you saw in that game is that he is a perfect wingman. He's a perfect combination with Nathan Cleary. There's something special about watching Cleary dictate traffic, lead the team around, put in a big moment, and then Ethan Strange being this big-bodied, large 5'8" that wants to run. It just changes the dynamic, the way you're going to defend if you're the Maroons. Compared to if you bring back Mitchell Moses, to me, you've got almost the exact same player. You got two guys that have incredible boots. You have two guys that kind of play the game the same way. But to me, I think Cleary is a better halfback. And you've got two halfbacks. So I'm going to take a guy that plays halfback and put him with a guy that normally plays 5'8". And he's a running 5'8". It to me is a no-brainer. I know a lot of people think that guys shouldn't lose their position because of injury, but that's not how I see this. I think that it's a better combination, and I think they're going to need that combination to be that way if they're going to find a way to win this series over the Maroons. Also, I start Casey McLean because the moment that guy came in after Cola went out, he was the best player on the field. A couple of those takes that he did off of kicks, you're talking a guy who's never played State of Origin before that instantly injected himself into the game. Because those were two freaking catches that a player made that I haven't seen some of the best fullbacks in the game make. Those were just high-end catches that Casey McLean made. And then it wasn't just the catches. He just always seemed to be in the offensive category. He always seemed to be the guy pushing up. He seemed to be there at the right moments. He is a special dude. Casey McLean, watching him come into his own with the Panthers, it is impressive to see this young man not really get blown away. And I heard Nathan Cleary one time just laugh when they asked, what do you think about Casey McLean? And he's like, well, the only thing he does is play footy in video games. And to me, that says his mindset is he doesn't get too high or too low. He gets to play some video games, and he gets to play the game that he loves. Nothing else more about it. It's just kind of apples are apples, oranges are oranges. But every time you want to see a big moment, that guy steps up and does it. And that's why I've got to have him on my side. I don't know where you're going to have him. Could Tony Staggs have the biggest game, and he kind of looked like he was having problems? You put him in that position. But he, to me, has to be in that side because he's pure magic if the Blues are thinking they're going to win this series. Now, on the other side of the coin, there are the Maroons and Billy. If I'm a Maroons fan, I got to feel pretty darn good. For one, Origin 1 was there for the taking, and I was on hostile soil, right? They were the team that came out of the box that looked like they were energized, looked like they were ready for the game, looked like they were ready to attack. That's one. Games 2 and 3, to me, are in Maroons territory. And I know you're saying, well, only one of those games were in Suncorp, Shedda. Yeah, exactly. But Game 2 is in Queensland country. Because if you don't think the Melbourne Storm are Team Queensland, you're insane. You're crazy. They're going to have the fans out by the droves. You've got Grant, you've got Munster back on the side. Yes, it is that is going to be a predominantly maroon building. So if you're Billy, there's not many changes you have to do. Sammy Walker looks good. I don't think Dearden's going to be back already, so you're going to go with Sam again. And even if Dearden is back, are you really going to really mess with that combination? And it's nothing against Tommy. It's a matter of how good Sam looked and how well he seemed like he played with Munster. So I myself going forward think the Maroons are the favorites to win the competition, to win the next two. It's going to be fun. I've thought about Origin a lot, and I've watched a lot of Origin. We went through all the years that the Maroons just dominated, and but I can't think of an Origin where I have no idea what's going to happen next, and that's what's so beautiful about this. And I think that is why the rest of this series is going to be white knuckling it for both sides. I think that the stories that are going to come out of it, the way the teams are playing, it is just going to be magical all the way through. And one other thing, Origin 2 is actually taking place on my 10-year wedding anniversary on the 17th. So I'm beyond stoked for this. I'm ready for it. And it's just so great when you've got the best competition in rugby league and you have no idea what's going to happen. It is just, from the butterflies to the anticipation, it's just going to be a magical moment. Can't wait. The only bad thing is we've got to wait a couple weeks now, 3 weeks before we get Origin 2. But I guarantee you, I'm ready for it, and I know you guys are as well. Now, as we go on the 40-20 Shedheads, not much can really overshadow State of Origin. Not many news stories, not many, I guess, new, public events. I don't know. Not many things can actually make Origin go, wow, let's cover this story right now. Well, we got it. We got it in the standpoint that, I almost can't believe I'm saying this, NRL CEO Andrew Abdo. I've met Andrew Abdo. I've got a picture with Andrew Abdo and from Vegas. Has resigned from his position as CEO of the NRL effective July 15th to take charge of Tennis Australia. That's right, one South African to another, Tennis Australia. Nicely done. But that's huge. That is huge. I didn't see it coming. I think not many people did. I think Andrew will do a great job in the position. He did some pretty incredible things. Vegas, helping the NRL through COVID. He did some pretty key important things for the NRL and for rugby league. But I just did not see this coming. I'm saying, you hear him talk all the time that he's part of the greatest game in the world. And I never really felt that was just him kind of talking up to the cameras. But I definitely didn't think that he was thinking about leaving it to go to another sport. Now, let's talk from the Andrew Abdo side. This is going to be a lot less, let's just put it this way. Week in and week out, the tension will not be as strong as being the CEO of the NRL. Tennis Australia is going to be a lot more lackadaisical. Not saying he's not going to be working hard. I'm not saying that. But it just doesn't have those trials and tribulations week in and week out as the CEO of the NRL is going to have. So for him to have maybe a little bit more of a relaxing job going forward, I think he got that. But it's just surprising for me. But it looks like Peter V'landys is going to fit into that position. He's taken a leave of absence from his horse racing duties that he has, and he's going to come in and step in this position. A lot of people have been asking the question, does this make V'landys the czar, the all supreme being of rugby league going forward? And I don't think any of us are going to know that yet, because I think there's got to be a large percentage of the clubs that vote that they want the game to go in that direction with V'landys to lead, to have both positions. But what makes this such a crazy time is the NRL is right now in negotiations of signing a gigantic TV deal. No matter if that's 9 or if that's 7. I hope it's not affecting me watching all my games abroad. But there is a lot of stuff in motion right now behind the scenes for the NRL that they're trying to get their hands on, and that is what's going on TV package-wise going forward. So it's not a matter of that Peter V'landys is just coming into a position of finding out how we're keeping the boys on the field happy and the referees excited. No, this is huge money that's coming up. And I think this is one of the reasons that the resignation is not effective immediately, because I think Andrew Abdo is going to be with V'landys as they try to iron that out and to try to have this TV package thing done before July 15th. Now, that's just right around the corner when it comes to these type of negotiations and this type of money. So that's a lot that these guys are going to have to get done. But it makes me go back to what Andrew Voss said to me when I was on his show. The game of rugby league never sleeps, Corey. And once again, we got another story, back-to-back weeks. We've had Metcalf. We have this now. It just has no problem throwing right cross and left hook to catch you right on the chin week in and week out. That's why we love you, rugby league, because you keep giving us something. And it does, time and time again. Now, as we go into our picks for round 13, we've got more than 5 matches. We got 7 this week, and we've got some pretty key big matchups, which we get week in and week out. But it starts off round 13 Friday night. Sea Eagles versus the Sharks. Word comes out, Nico Hines is out of this match. And to me, that just is that's the final nail in the coffin for the Sharkies, because I'm going with the Sea Eagles to continue the march of Fosball down the track. Big victory if they get this to really solidify their standing in the top 4. Saturday, Eels versus the Knights. Mitchell Moses is not in the side for the Eels. To me, that is a no-brainer. Then why you go with the boys from the Hunter. I've got the Knights over the Eels. Bulldogs versus the Tigers, or a.k.a. the Lachlan Galvin, we don't like you, Bull. It's going to be interesting, but I'm going with the Tigers with Abby Curacao back, Drain Bola back. I just think the Tigers are too good of a team to not finally get the car back on the track and get back in the winners column. I got the Tigers over the Dogs. And then to close out Super Saturday, we've got the Roosters versus the Storm. I just really feel that the Chooks are a better club right now. It's not that I don't think the Storm will lift, but I think the Sydney Roosters right now are a better club. Dennis, I'm picking the Roosters. That's right. I'm going with the Chooks over the Storm to get a big victory. Even though Robbo does not have the greatest record against Bellyache, I think that this is different this year. The Roosters are a way better club than the Storm. So we're going with the Chooks. Sunday, Dragons versus the Broncos. I know everyone keeps asking time and time again, is this the week? Is this the week? No, it's not. Dragons lose again. I'm going with the Broncos. You know Reece Walsh is going to put together a performance that we're all going to want to see, because he's going to want to show that he needs to be back in that Maroon side. And the Dragons, come on now. They're going up to Suncorp. It is going to be kind of like the Lone Ranger walking into that valley. It's not going to go good for those Texas Rangers, if you know what I mean. Cowboys versus the Raiders. Yes, it's at the nation's capital. I'm sorry, Willow, I'm going to have to say this. Cows come in riding their steeds and take out some Vikings. I got the Cowboys over the Raiders. Again, making it a second half that's going to have to be very, very strong for the Green Machine. They're mean too, but you know what I'm saying. The Raiders are really going to have to take it to the next level this next second half of the season. But at this current juncture, I got the Cowboys are a better club right now. They're going to get the victory. And then we get it. The blockbuster. The Waz visiting the Panthers. A game to me that is going to just be seismic. I'm a little worried that I'm going to feel some of the recoil, some of the rumbling from some of these tackles. It is going to be a magical game. I really can't put to words how excited I am about this. But I'm going to call the upset. I've got the Waz rested. I've got the Waz taking on a Panthers club that you've got Cleary, you've got Yo, you've got, Bizza, you've got Casey McLean. You got a bunch of guys that have played ball this week that's legs are going to be a little bit more tired, and I think the Waz, going to be a close one, get the victory over the Panthers. Let's go over the picks again. We've got the Seagulls, the Knights, the Tigers, the Chooks, the Broncos, the Cows, and the Waz are our picks this week. And our gun of the round, I got to do it. I almost did a whole thing about the guy. Matty Burton, 4 for 5 for conversions, 1 penalty goal, 252 running meters, 2 line breaks, 7 tackle breaks, 21 tackles made, and 341 kicking meters. The rejuvenation, the comeback of Matty Burton, very, very impressive. The question is, does he continue with that same type of fire this week? Because they're going to have that type of performance if they're going to beat the Tigers this weekend. Shedheads, I hope you've recovered. I know that you're going to have to come off the caffeine, come off the substance for another 3 weeks, but we're going to do things. We're going to work together to get to Origin 2. Because, yes, I know we're all going to go through a little bit of withdrawal after the match we just saw. But, like I said, Sunday night is going to be magical. Get ready for it. Make sure if you've got friends that have not got into the game of rugby league yet, this is going to be the game to get them turned on to it. It's going to be that type of magical game. Anyway, Shedheads, been another great week. Big shout outs to all my friends and family overseas. But until next week, stay out of trouble. Don't get caught. You've been listening to Corey Jackson. This is Outside the Sheds. See ya.
And that was another fantastic episode of Outside the Sheds with Corey Jackson, talking all things NRL and all things sports. So please remember to smash the subscribe button and share this with your family and friends and show them what Australian sport is all about.